Hey friends, Stephen Michael Miller here. So glad that you're here with me this morning. It is our morning momentum. It's a Monday, and man, I'm super excited for this week. There's a lot to do. It's the holiday season, and I wanted to talk today specifically about overcoming objections. And as we dive into the topic of overcoming objections, I want to kind of separate it into two different topics. I want to talk about overcoming objections that others may throw in your path, and then of course also overcoming objections that you may put in your own path. And I'm going to start with the latter first. I'm going to talk about the objections that you may put in your own path. And you see, this is a conversation that we all have with ourselves all the time, where we want to go and do something, we want to accomplish something big or great, and oftentimes we put the very first objection in our own way before anyone else comes. Before we talk about it, with our friends or family or anybody else, we will often throw up that very first objection, and it oftentimes looks like this: I just don't know if I can do that. I've never done that before. Let me just ask you this question: have you ever said that to yourself when facing a daunting task, when facing something new, when facing something difficult? Have you ever said to yourself, I can't do it, or I don't think that this is possible, or I've never done this before and I don't know how? Those first initial objections can be momentum killers. I mean, in a really big way. Those very first objections are objections that typically will stop us from even taking the very first action towards whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. And those very first objections are the ones that you actually have the very most power over. Sometimes we feel powerless. Sometimes we feel like we can't do it. Sometimes we feel scared because of the unknown. But the reality is if you can get those very first objections out of your way, if you can make sure that you don't place those first objections in your path in the first place, then it can be so much easier for you to not only get started, but to start seeing some truly marked progress, to start getting closer and closer and closer to the goals that you want to accomplish and achieve. And we typically will throw up the same exact objections that other people will throw to us. And I want to talk about some of the objections that others throw, and then we're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit. But the main objections that we come against are things like, I don't have enough time. And this is whether someone else is telling us this objection or you're telling yourself this objection. These are the normal ones, right? I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. Um, I'm not really interested as much as I maybe thought I was, or not interested in that at all. Uh, I'm not good at it, or I can't do it. Those are the typical objections. And it's been my experience that when an objection comes up, uh, it's not usually the root objection. In other words, most objections are kind of just surface objections, either stated out of fear or lack of knowledge or anything else. And the greatest way that I have found to overcome objections is to begin asking questions. Say that again, right? In order to overcome objections, you've got to start asking questions. And that is yourself as well as to anybody else that you might be working with. So it doesn't really matter if it's somebody else that's saying, "Hey, I don't want to go into business or do this kind of thing. I don't want to buy that product. I don't want to," whatever it might be. It doesn't matter if it's an individual on the outside telling you that, or if that's yourself. The best way to overcome objections is to start asking questions. I've seen so often in my life where I've been in sales roles and different things, and when you're in sales and when you're trying to get somebody to see the benefits of a product or a program, and then potentially purchase that product or program, and when someone typically says, "Oh, I'm not interested in that," usually they say they're not interested. I don't know if you've noticed this, but usually they'll say they're not interested before they even get the information for whatever it is. And one fun way to kind of tackle those objections when someone comes to you and says, "I'm just not interested," is to genuinely start asking some questions. Maybe you ask them a question like, "Well, tell me, what is it you're not interested in?" Especially if you haven't gone into a full explanation. if you said, "Hey, I want to tell you about something," or "I want to tell you about this or that or the other," if they right off the bat say, "I'm not interested," that's typically just a deflector. That's just something to kind of say, "Hey, I don't know enough yet. Maybe I feel like I'm too busy and I don't have enough time for it," or whatever the case is. But they will typically say, "I'm just not interested," oftentimes before they even get the information. And so ask them, do them the favor. See, most people will show up in the smallest way possible for themselves. We've been kind of programmed as a society to say no to everything, right? We've been programmed to be skeptical, to say no, and there's some reason for that, right? There have been a lot of scams, and a lot of people have been taken advantage of in sales in general. A lot of people feel like they don't want to be lied to or forced upon or whatever, and so oftentimes before they even hear the information they'll say no because they don't trust themselves to make maybe a good decision once they have all the information or whatever the case is. And so when someone says, "I'm just not interested," I often will ask, and one thing that you can ask is, well, what is it exactly that you're not interested? This is actually what I teach, right? What is it that you're not interested in? And say it with sincerity. Really, what is it that you don't love? What part about this product or program do you not like? What are you not interested in? And that's one thing that you can say or you can ask to get some more information. But really, before you even get there, you want to start, and before you even ask for a sale of anything like that, before you even get to the point of objection, you want to make sure that you are asking these questions ahead of time. You want to ask them what it is that they're looking to do and accomplish. What are their goals? What's holding them back? What is the one major thing that if they could remedy would feel like, they would feel like it would help to propel or accelerate their success? What's been kind of that roadblock for them? If you start to ask these kind of questions, if you start to really get into the nitty-gritties of, of what's holding them back, man, you're so more likely to be able to help them succeed. And the same thing goes with yourself. When you come out the gate and say, "You know what, I don't know if I can do that," or "I'm not interested," or "I don't have enough time," or "I don't have enough money," or whatever the case is, if you start to ask yourself the questions, what is really holding me back from this? What am I afraid of? Do I really not have time? Where could I free up some time? Is this important enough to me where it makes sense to trade time, right? To stop doing some other activities that I may be taking my time doing and to start focusing on doing some different activities? Could this make sense to save money up for it, right? If I don't have the money, or if I'm telling myself I don't have the money, is it something that I can save up for, that I can then apply later? That I can earn and then do at a different time. Is this something that I can set down as a goal for myself to accomplish later? The problem is we often will just put that roadblock up, right? We'll put that block up, and we won't. When we put that block up, it stops us from making any kind of forward progress. When we say I can't because I don't have time, money, or interest, or whatever the case may be, when we start to throw up those roadblocks, we oftentimes put ourselves in the situation where we will already count it completely out, even if it's something that may have been good for us, and that will stop all progress. So one of the greatest things that you can do when any kind of objection comes up, whether that's your own objections in your mind, and whether you're telling yourself you can't do it for whatever reason, or that's an outward objection that someone is bringing to you for, maybe you're in sales, maybe you're starting your own business, maybe whatever the case may be. Whenever those objections come, the greatest way to overcome objections is to ask the right questions. And there's so many questions you can ask, and you can really go through the how, what, where, why, when. You can go through all those different questions. Why am I feeling this way? Where have I felt this before? How have I felt this before? Is this the same kind of feeling I've experienced, or is it different? Is this objection legitimate? Why do I have these fears? Where do these fears come from? What am I really fearing? Why do I not want to do this? What is it that I don't really want to do? Is it the whole thing, or only a small little part of this? And as you start to ask yourself these questions and you answer them honestly, or as you ask someone else these questions and you really dig in, not just letting that first answer be the ultimate end answer, then you'll start to find out exactly where the need is and whether or not your product or service or this new project or whatever it might be is going to be beneficial for you or that other person. All right, you can start to actually identify if there's something there that you really that will really benefit yourself, or again, in the case of an outward person or someone else, whether that's going to really it could really benefit them, really help them to accomplish and achieve their goals. And the only way to find that out for someone else or for yourself is to ask more and more questions. So, if you want to have greater success in life, if you want to overcome those objections, those roadblocks, those obstacles that come up all the time and every day, all you've got to do is begin to ask more questions, sit back and listen to the results, to the answers to those questions, and then then just make a educated determination as to what you can do to either move forward because now you've gotten to the root, or to move on to the next thing, right? It's really quite that simple. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. This is your morning momentum. Keep that momentum going every single day. Don't stop. This is part of living, growing, and experiencing life. If we want to become better, we've got to do better things, right? We've got to do better things. Absolutely. So everyone, thank you so much. Have a fantastic week and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh, and if you haven't had a chance yet, please, I'd love it if you would subscribe, share this with your friends, comment down below. Let me know how you overcome your objections. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll talk to you and see you on the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.